The Pro Show is brought to you by Rockin' Media and our proprietary Flash HDR photo process, providing you with the best, most realistic photos of your property. See the difference at rockinmedia.com. Hi, and welcome to the Pro Show. I'm Rick Machle. On this show, we're talking about Colorado Springs again, but this time we're talking about the east side of I-25 and looking at the different properties there and what's going on in the market. In addition, we are going to be talking about staging your backyard. We have a great home for you to see. In addition, Nancy will be here to talk about mortgages and, of course, Greg about rentals. That's all next on the Pro Show. Joining me today is Camellia Coray again. Hi, Camellia.
Hi, Rick. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, and you?
I'm doing great. It's a beautiful day in Colorado.
We are into March already, and so how are you feeling about March relative to, I don't know, February, January?
Well, I like to say spring has sprung. That's kind of a term I use. So love what I'm seeing out there as far as new inventory and buyers, and just the fact that spring is right around the corner. It just brings a new excitement and energy to the real estate market.
Well, that's great. Well, let's since you talked about the market, let's get to that next. So we're looking at Colorado Springs, which is south of Denver, and we're just going to look at the stats for the Colorado Springs area, which includes Fountain and all the way up to Palmer Lake. And the sales inventory is actually up 53.6% from 1,485 last year to 2,282 this year. About a third have had price cuts, and the days on the market is up from 41 last year to 59 this year, and the median list price year over year is down a couple of percent from 489,776 last year to 480,000 even. And the new listing count is up 4.3% from 1,016 to 1,060, so relatively flat in new listing count. But obviously with our inventory higher, that would have an impact on what we're seeing in the market, right, Camellia?
Absolutely. Yep. Supply and demand, that rule always applies in real estate.
And so do these numbers kind of match? Because I mean, all real estate's local and sometimes hyper local, but are you seeing that you're seeing a lot more inventory that's staying on the market a little bit longer?
Yes. As a matter of fact, well, we're seeing a lot of sellers ready to sell a little earlier than usual. So we're seeing a lot of January, February, and on into March listings. Generally, we see listings hit around that March, April timeframe. But yep, the market inventory is increasing a little bit sooner, and definitely there's more competition. It's super important when you're hitting the market that you come on strong. You have your home staged, you have it priced well, because there's a lot of competition right now.
And what are you seeing essentially with pricing right now?
Pricing as in
are you showing that, are you looking to have the homeowners price aggressively and hopefully get more bids in there, or kind of come in where they were a year ago?
Great. Good question. Great question. I think when you're a seller, if I'm talking to my sellers right now and just kind of across the board as I'm talking to some of my colleagues, if the home is in like move-in ready, you've had it pre-inspected, and you know your comps around you and you really have a leg up on the competition, you can really price it pretty aggressively. But I will tell you what, in 2 weeks' time, maximum 3 weeks' time, if you don't have an offer, then you've not hit that right number. If you're getting showings. If you're not getting showings, then, sometimes it's just a matter
maybe even be more aggressive.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But if you're a buyer, what I tell my buyers right now, we use strategies for buyers and sellers and multiple different pillars for the process. But if I have a buyer that I'm shopping with right now, I'm like, okay, if it is like that unicorn, that diamond in the rough home, don't mess around. Get your offer in, get it strong, get it in quickly. But otherwise, just know that sellers still are willing to come off list price. They are willing to offer seller concessions, so to help buy down rates. It's still kind of a thing. And or sometimes it's seller concession to repaint and carpet and things like that. So I do encourage my buyers to, when we're out shopping, unless it's a unicorn, let's be aggressive on our offer when we come in. So.
And on the listing side, are you showing that different price points are selling better, or is it kind of across the board pretty, much the same?
That is a great question, because right now the 300 to the 800 price range, that's like where 70% of all the activity is happening, that 3 to 8. That might sound like a really big range, but that's like 70% of all the buyers are in that pool.
Right.
So if you're shopping below that 300 or above 8, fewer buyers staying on the market a little bit longer. But then again, you've got a lot of competition in that 3 to 8. So sometimes you're staying on a little bit longer simply because there's more competition. So there's more houses in that price range. But yeah, I would say the upper end, to be honest with you, if you're a unicorn, you're going to go quickly, and you can have multiple offers. We're seeing that, but those are fewer and farther in between. Otherwise, you have to have a compelling factor to get an offer. What's really interesting, I like that you asked that question, because I'm going to tell you 2 stories that are true right now that just happened. 2 homes on the market one was on the market in July, the other one hit the market in September. Very few showings, obviously, did go under contract or anything. Turn to the new year, all these showings, we go under contract. One, we went under contract full price. We did no price reductions because we were priced well. And this is like 5 months on the market. So the buyers just hadn't shown up. And then the other one, they did ask us for a price reduction in seller concession. So anyway, but you never know when they're going to show up, when they're going to come. But we're talking 5 to 7 months on the market. And I hate to say that, but that's the honest to goodness truth. Some of these houses, and there's no rhyme or reason why they have not gone under contract, just the buyers haven't shown up. So if you're a seller out there and your house has been on the market for a while, just know, just takes that one right buyer. And if you are priced right, sometimes the answer is just to wait.
Was it just the time of the year, the election? Do you have any indication as to why all of a sudden, after the first of the year, the buyers actually started showing up again?
I think all of the above. Holidays, there's distractions. I definitely think with the election, people were wondering like what's going to happen. There's always that pause, and then those pause people pick up in December and January. So you do have that. That's a component. What I think has really gone away is the talk about, I'm going to wait for the interest rates to come down. We're not talking about that anymore. Buyers aren't talking about that anymore, because the new strategy is we're not going to wait for the interest rates to come down. We're going to ask sellers to give us a seller concession so we can buy down our rate. Or we know we're going to get this house at this interest rate, and when it does come down, we're going to do a refi.
And it sounds like we talked about this on an earlier show this year, that the reason the interest rates aren't being discussed is because the consensus is we're kind of just sitting flat most of this year. So you might as well go for either a better price if you're a buyer, or like you said, the concessions on there, I think makes a lot of sense.
And the best strategy for a buyer has always been buy the house that you love at the best price, and then you can make that interest rate come down whenever the interest rates do come down. But the pattern has been if the interest rates come down, the house prices go up. And you aren't going to go rebuy your house for a lesser price. So get the house that you want. If you can afford the interest rate, see if you can get it bought down by the seller with concessions, even if a 2-1 buy down, 3-2-1 buy down, but see if you can buy it down permanently or one of those buy down programs, and then do a refi a little bit later. And that works all day long. Exactly.
And I assume these are strategies you go over with your buyers and your homeowners, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We want to help buyers get into homes if they're ready, willing, and able. We want to build out strategies for them. And there are a lot of different strategies depending on their goals, their financial circumstances and situations. So yeah, I would not be shy. If I were a ready, willing, and able buyer, I'd be out shopping right now.
Yeah.
So call me if you want to be a buyer.
Exactly. Yeah. Give her a call. And it seems like it's pretty balanced, though. Yes, you have times where you've got a home that we would have probably thought might have gone under contract in like 60 days. That's, as your example, it was up for 4 months, but that was time of year more than anything else. But it's probably pretty nice to be able to take buyers around and have them think about what house they want, correct?
Absolutely. What's really great about the market right now is you do have options. For anybody who shopped during COVID, you didn't really have options. You just took what you could get almost, and that's not fun. But right now, yes, inventory is up. You have options. In the Colorado Springs market, we have multiple areas of town. Not only do you have options on the resale market, you have a lot of options in new construction. So options definitely is the way to go. And as you know, Rick, we've talked about this before, is I like to tell my buyers when we're shopping, let's shop for community first. If you like the Colorado Springs market, let's go visit all the different communities and pick the part of town you want to live in. Then we can go shopping for houses after that. So, but definitely a fun time right now to be a buyer. Lots and lots of options. And then the strategies for negotiation, boy, they're plentiful out there. So it's a good time.
It is. Well, let's take a break, have Nancy and I talk a little bit about mortgages. And when we come back, let's go down the east side of I-25 and look at home types and talk about that. Nancy Alexander is here again from, I almost called you Real Property. Nancy Alexander is joining us again from Smart Mortgage Services to talk about mortgages. And today we want to talk about what happens if you have an appraisal that doesn't match what you've offered or what has been accepted. Right. And some people maybe talk a little bit about how that works, because some people might think, well, it's worth what I offered. That isn't true, right?
True. That isn't true. Seller's going to ask what seller wants for that property. Now, hopefully seller and real estate agent have done their due diligence and looked at their comps and et cetera. You know that, Rick, and et cetera, right? And they've come up with this fair price and based on this information. But if they haven't, and if it's the dartboard effect that, gee, I couldn't find any comps, so we just threw the dart and said, okay, here's the price, then the appraiser comes in, right, and appraises the property. And the one thing about an appraisal is that I'll say this caveat, guys, that it's a one person's opinion of value. So keep that in mind, but at the same time, let's use some numbers. Let's say what?
500,000.
Okay. So 500,000
is what we pay, what we agreed to, so that we agreed to that.
Okay, so we agree to a $500,000 purchase price, and the appraisal comes in at $480,000.
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
What are my options?
Right. So you, first of all, you want to go back to your loan officer, and your loan officer is going to do what's called an ROV, or reconsideration of value. Okay. So what the loan officer has to do is reach out to both of the agents, listing and selling, and say, okay, I should say listing and buying, excuse me, and say, okay, what are 3 comps that the appraiser hasn't used that you both feel better represent the value, the $500,000 value equal purchase price, right? Okay. That we're dealing with. So hopefully you can come up with 3 comps that the appraiser somehow missed, right? And you resubmit it to the mortgage company. The mortgage company reaches back out to the original appraiser, unfortunately, and says, is this correct? Did you misalign with these comparables? If the appraiser comes back and says, no, I didn't, and the value is $480,000, period, end of story, then the only thing at that point, I guess there's 2 options you can do. Okay. You can go back to the mortgage company and say, we strongly disagree with the appraiser and we want a second appraisal. But you guys, the reason you can't go out and just order a second appraisal is because the Dodd-Frank Act won't allow you to. Okay. Right? That second appraisal is on the mortgage company, the price tag, right? So it's $600 out of the mortgage company's pocket to get a second appraisal to really confirm, was that 480 in our story correct? If all of that work has been done and you still end up at 480, somebody's got to give. Maybe you both give. Maybe seller gives 10,000, maybe buyer gives 10,000. Maybe seller says, I think the appraiser was not a good appraiser, and in turn, I do feel my value is at 500,000. And if you, Mr. Buyer, want to buy this, then you've got to come up with the additional 20,000. And the reason is this is the important part. The lender will only base the loan, right, on appraised value or purchase price, whichever is less. In this case, appraised value is less. So now all of a sudden purchase price in numbers drops to 480, and you have to redo all of the numbers based on the 480 that adjusts your down payment. I mean, it can be a mess.
Yeah. So you can either come up with the gap, that 20 grand, you can negotiate that, or I guess worst case scenario, if the seller doesn't want to come down to that and you don't have the money, is you just cancel the contract and you walk away.
That's right.
Okay. So hopefully that would obviously be the worst case scenario, but you know, the important thing, and people don't necessarily know this, you cannot strong arm appraisers because they go to jail if they get it wrong and they're over appraising and they go, okay, well, we'll just do it at 500. And they can't justify it because they have to justify how they got that number. And
and you're right, Rick. That's a big piece of the Dodd-Frank Act is the sense that the appraisers went to Congress at the time, 2008, 2009, and said, look, we're being forced to come up with values, right? We're being forced by the realtor. We're being forced by the lender to come up with values. And in turn, what it allowed appraisers to do is to not be accountable to anyone but themselves, right? Positives and negatives to that.
Right.
But that's not what we're talking about. So in turn, you know, yes, you cannot force an appraiser. And if you speak value to an appraiser, hey, gosh, Johnny, do you think you can get this 500,000 that I've gone under contract with? Right. The appraiser will turn down the offer to do the appraisal. They will say that they're feeling coerced.
Right. They're being pressured, and you can't shop for a different appraiser, which is the issue. Yeah, that's why you go back to that original appraiser with the additional comps. So really good information, and it kind of lets everybody know how the process works. And if you come in with an appraiser that's low or an appraisal that's low, you'll definitely want to contact your mortgage service provider and figure out, okay, what do we do next? And of course, if you're working with Nancy, she'll be happy to help you out with that process, and you can contact her on lots of different mortgage issues you might be having, or if you want to just have her handle your loan, you can call her at the number on the screen. And always great to have you on. And next week, let's talk about equity as it comes from my payments. How much equity am I actually building from the payments? All right.
Amortization.
Yeah, amortization. We'll talk about that next week. Thanks, Nancy.
Great. Thank you, sir.
Today, we are continuing on the east side of I-25 in Colorado Springs, and Colorado Springs is about 45 minutes south of Denver in good traffic. And the east side has a lot of really interesting areas, and we're going to start all the way up in the Black Forest area and in Monument and talk about those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw around specific areas, and we're going to start up in Monument on the east side of I-25, maybe go out to the Black Forest area and look at some of the properties there. And it looks like we have a bunch of townhomes on the lower end, and we're looking in the 350s. So tell me about this area.
Okay, well, Rick, you drew a circle around a very large section of what we would kind of call like the northern part of El Paso County.
Okay.
It's that north and east, but you're up like in the Monument area. Monument itself does have townhomes and condos, but a lot of single family homes, and you're averaging what in the 800 range for single family homes. And you're coming all the way down to the Glen Eagle area. So when you're close to I-25, you've got a lot of options for homes, townhomes, condos with really nice views. So that's really a great corridor. As you head east into the Black Forest a little bit more, that's where you're going to find the trees. You're going to find some acreage properties, horse properties. So that section, when we talk a lot about buyers shopping community first, if you kind of like that north end, closer up by the Air Force Academy, all the way up to County Line, as you can see from this, you have every option available for you. Probably the lowest price you're going to hit is probably $350 to $400 in that townhouse condo, going all the way up to, multi-million-dollar estates, very large properties in the trees. So it's kind of nice. You can be on that north end, close to Denver, and have a variety of options for you. And we do have a lot of people who commute to Castle Rock or to Denver living on that north end on the east side of I-25. And it's kind of neat that you're separating this show's property features to be on the east side of I-25, because there is a difference being on the foothills versus east side of I-25. So really some great listings up in that northern area.
In fact, this one here for 2.7, this is one of the CC Signature Group listings as well, right? Absolutely.
Yep. That's a perfect example. Sits on about 16 acres, 4,600 square feet. It's 2.8 million. Gorgeous views of Pikes Peak. That's a newer construction home. But yeah, you can have horses up there. So yeah, good example.
That is in my top 10 of homes that I've photographed out of probably the 20,000 I've done over the years. I love that property. I'm shocked it's still around. So you want to take a look at that one for sure. So let's remove this boundary, and I'm going to go ahead and draw around the Briargate area. So what's in this area?
Absolutely. Briargate's really fun. So Briargate, one thing I really love about Briargate is that really starts in the Briargate area. So Northgate, just right above Briargate, and where we're here in Briargate, from a shopping and convenience perspective, you got lots of restaurants and stores and things like that that really take care of all the residences in this area. So lots of fun recreational things to do. But as far as housing goes, you don't get a lot of acreage in this area, but you have great communities from older homes that were built in the 70s all the way up to homes that are being built right now today. And great schools. We've got great schools all over El Paso County, but a lot of walkable trail, sidewalk, walkable areas, and the townhome, condo, single family homes range anywhere, I'm going to say from I'm going to say 400 all the way up to probably $1.5 million in this Briargate area. There's a small section of, let's see, where are you at here? Yep. The hospital is also in this little, really close to the hospital here as well. So, and the John Venetia Park is there. Gosh, it's a great place to live, and a lot of options for homes.
And as you move west of east of Powers, you have a lot of new construction too, right?
Right. So so new construction. So you have Cordera, Wolf Ranch, and you're heading out. As people don't know the El Paso County area, the far right side of that circle, you're getting really close to Falcon. So you're getting close to where Falcon and Colorado Springs meet. So yes, that is new all the way to the east. Of that boundary circle that is there is new construction. Yep. Small homes, small affordable homes, no basements, some basements, 2-story ranches. You've got it for any age group, and pretty much any style of home is being built out in that east side.
Roughly around 600, it looks like. 600 grand for 4-bedroom, 4-bath, 2,700.
Yep, the further east you go, I'd say you get more bang for your buck the further east you go, and they're all newer. I would say west of Powers are older homes. East of Powers, definitely newer construction for sure. And
even I'm on what's available right now for the highest price, and the highest price in this area is still $689. With what's available right now. So
with what's available.
If you've looked at Denver, you're probably going, wow, that's pretty good pricing. It seems like the pricing in Colorado Springs is lower. And generally, would you say it is?
Yes, we definitely have more affordability down here in the El Paso County region. That is for sure. And builders, one thing I really like what they're doing right now is they're really bringing in affordable products. So you can definitely get products in that 400 range. New construction, townhome condos for sure.
So let's talk about Northeast with the Palmer Park, Cimarron Hills area. What are we looking at here?
Yep. Yeah. So again, you've got to the west you have I-25, and then to the east you have Powers Boulevard. As you can see, between those two are older homes. Those are some of the older communities. And again, as this community was built out, they did a really great job of having great open space. So you have Palmer Park, great for hiking and all kinds of outdoor stuff there. And then so some older homes. And then as you go east, that's where all the new construction is. So east of Powers Boulevard in the Cimarron Hills area, new construction. Starting to get close to Peterson, so it's a great place. You want to be close if you're in the military. You want to be close to Peterson and even Fort Carson. We start seeing a lot of the military families there. And for people who don't know, Powers Corridor, that entire north to south, is chock full of shopping and entertainment. We've got Costco's and, movie theaters. It's just we call it First and Main. It's a great area that feeds for all the residences in and around there. All kinds of shopping. So, and you can, find old homes, new homes, townhome condo. So you've got options for sure.
Yeah. And we've got this home. I think I just photographed this one that looks like it's the most expensive one in the area I circled for 1.1 mil. So you can, there's a wide variety from, looks like we go all the way back to the lowest price, you've got condos for 165 in this area and all the way up to 1.1. So it's very diverse. How about we look at kind of the downtown area at this point? Okay. Yeah. And I think I'll just kind of go around this way. And what are we looking at here? Oh, it looks like we got high-rise condos and that are pretty affordable in the twos, and then probably goes up. Let's jump all the way down to the bottom and jump over here and see what it looks like on the highest price ones in this area. We're still in the, there's one for 4.8. So that must be it's a multifamily home.
Yeah.
So
you're picking up some multifamily. So the downtown area is super fun. It's walkable if you want to be kind of a walkable community. I love we've got the historic part of downtown, and we have outside of the historic, just small cottage homes, homes that were built in the early 1900s. We've got 1890s to 1904, kind of the oldest homes in there. And then a lot of them have been redone. So super fun. And then, a lot of communities that were built in the 70s and 80s, you can pretty much find everything in that area as well. The nice thing is you're getting further down near the downtown area, your elevation changes. So you don't quite get the snow that you would when you're up north. The elevation changes by about 2,000 feet. It's kind of nice. And the homes are older. We have little pockets of new, like infill, but for the most part, that's probably the oldest of the homes are in that downtown area. And of course, it continues on the west side of I-25, but today we're talking about the east side. So, and definitely a lot of pockets. You're really close to Fort Carson. So, and you're getting close to that security Widefield area, but definitely have a lot of military down there. But people who just love old and historic, really fun. And if you're working downtown and need a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, there's a lot of options down there. The high rises are really great. We've got a couple of really nice high rises as well. And for the college kids, there's a couple of colleges in our local areas. Great housing for college kids as well.
And my experience is a lot of these have been updated. So even though they may have been built 40 or 50 years ago, they don't really show their wear because they've got all that updating. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, on that note of updating, a lot of people who want to buy houses and fix them up and flip them are in that downtown, that general downtown and more southern area. So that was a good
area
there.
Yeah. Well, let's go down to Stratmore.
Yep. So Stratmore, Security Widefield, this is where you get your biggest bang for your buck. And actually, this is probably the hottest zip code for growth that we have in El Paso County. So not only are the houses still very affordable, great opportunity to buy a house and, put a little bit of sweat equity into it and increase your value. But a lot of growth happening in this area. A lot of builders have put up some new homes in the last 5 years. So a lot of new construction that's affordable. And that's one of the reasons we definitely like this area of town. And again, you've got great open space and parks and walking trails. So just a good area.
So if you're looking for affordability, you're saying the south area might have more affordability than north, especially on the east side of I-25. Is that correct?
Yeah. In general, yes. You've got some expensive homes down there for sure, but I would say in general, yes, you've got a little bit, the inventory of smaller homes is a little bit further down here in this southern area. There are homes that were built, 120 years ago, and they built them small. As we grew north, they got bigger. So that's one of the reasons for more affordability. So they're a little bit smaller.
And I'd imagine the military requirements for military personnel, they don't need, a lot of them are new families and things like that. So they wouldn't want necessarily the bigger homes, is my guess too. Let's look a little bit at the Fountain area. This is like our last little area. It's not really Colorado Springs, but it's the southern part, and this is another area that I think if you're looking for affordability, there's a lot down there too.
Right. And what's interesting is you'll notice you circled an area that says Fountain, but some of those addresses are going to say Colorado Springs. So Colorado Springs comes down into that Fountain area a little bit. Love Fountain. It's an up and coming place. Lots and lots and lots of new construction. Like I said, anything that's kind of like south of the airport, lots of growth, lots of land getting developed. Lorson Ranch is probably one of the biggest developments out there. But I would say in the last 10 years, you've got more options down there as far as new construction, probably than anywhere in the county. But several builders developing. We're going to have growth in that area of our town. If you like new construction and you like a little bit warmer weather, definitely outside of the city, but close to town, this is definitely an area to look at. So
brand new,
a lot of growth. 6-bed,
4-bath, 3,300 for just over $500,000. That tells you the value of Fountain and the southern part of Colorado Springs. And one of the things that I like about Colorado Springs is how many homes, no matter whether you're on the east side or the west side of I-25, have great views of Pikes Peak. It surprises me how well the builders manage to give a lot of homes those views of the Front Range and Pikes Peak.
Well, interestingly, when you think of Colorado Springs, you don't think of rolling hills, but it is very rolling here. And so because of that, we have a lot of opportunities to develop land that has views. So I call it the valley. Nobody uses the word in Colorado Springs, like Colorado Springs is in the valley. Well, it kind of is in the valley because the land goes up on either side of downtown.
Right.
And as you head out east, but our topography gives us that for sure. And Pikes Peak is ginormous. You can see it from miles and miles and miles away. So I would say that you see Pikes Peak much better the farther east you go, for sure. And when you're down south, where we just left, the Fountain area, you see it from a completely different angle.
Yeah.
You also see Cheyenne Mountain down there. When you're up north, you see that northern, I think they call that Rampart Range, the mountains up north.
Yeah.
But yes, we share our mountain views. That is for sure. Almost every community gets to have them. Right?
And if you want to look at the Air Force Academy, there's a lot of views up on the north side too of that, and the spires of the chapel. If they finished that yet, or are they still working on that?
No, they're still working on it.
Okay. Well, when they come out, I'm sure they're going to be amazing once they get that finished. That remodeling done. So, well, that's great. I appreciate the tour of Colorado Springs. When we come back, let's talk about staging your front yard. And like every week, we have Greg Batchelor here from Real Property Management. How you doing, Greg?
I'm doing great, Rick. How are you?
I'm doing great as well. Thank you for being here. And this week, a couple of months ago, we talked about things that tenants can do wrong. Let's flip that over and say, what can a tenant do right so they have a good rental experience?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say the first thing is make sure that you're getting into a rental that you can afford. So affordability is a challenge in the state of Colorado. We've seen rental rates just continue to climb for about the past decade. They have tapered off a little bit these past couple of years, but that is probably the first thing, is make sure you're just getting into a rental that you can afford it, whatever your budget is at. Second thing I would say is that renters need to make sure that they know and understand what it is that they're signing. So read through the clauses of the lease, understand what those requirements are from the landlord or property management company, whatever the case may be. That's a huge thing. And then, Rick, it's really, really important to have a good relationship with the landlord. Facilitate that relationship, do what you can to make sure that you're doing the right things to enable that relationship to just remain healthy. There are so many problems that get escalated that really don't have to if there's a good relationship between the landlord and the tenant.
And it seems, and maybe you can correct me, if I find something in the lease that I don't like, don't sign it, obviously, but do you find that tenants will scratch something out and put something else in and then negotiate that? And obviously it helps now that we have a little more inventory, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
And any one of those items, if there is just something that a tenant is not liking that's in the lease, absolutely have that dialogue to strike it, change it, whatever the case may be, with the landlord to where you are comfortable with what that lease agreement is going to look like.
Seems like keeping the property in good condition would be a good thing too, right?
It is a huge thing. As a matter of fact, diverting back to that conversation about having good relationship with the landlord, a big part of maintaining that good relationship is taking good care of the property. This is an asset that the landlord owns. And obviously, if you as a tenant are taking good care of that property, that's going to go a long, long way in terms of making sure that that relationship is solid.
It may also help too if you want to renew. And they know that they've got a good tenant, and they might not even raise your rent because they know they've got a good one in there. And as it comes for renewal time. Well, those are all great suggestions. Thanks, Greg. And if you want to get a hold of him or his team, you can do so by calling the number on the screen. And as always, thanks again, Greg.
My pleasure, Rick. Always good catching up.
You too. So most people think of staging, they think of the inside of the house, but I think of staging when it comes to curb appeal. So that's what we're going to talk about and what you should think about when staging the front of your property, whether it's a condo, a townhome, or a single family home, what you should be thinking about relative to the buyers. And we have a great person in Camellia to tell us all about this. So tell me, what should I be thinking about first when it comes to that curb appeal or staging that front? And what am I trying to convey?
Absolutely. Well, I think, Rick, that you bring up a great point when you think of staging, which I am all in when it comes to staging a home, because I think the perception of value is what's going to get you that top dollar for your house, starting with the very first impression. So most of us don't stop in the street to look at our house like a first-time home buyer. We just come in and go out. It's like, okay, I'm going to sell my house. You don't even think about the outside. One of the first things I like to tell my clients is, we're going to sell your house. One of the first things we're going to do is start with curb appeal. When you come home tomorrow, I want you to stop in front of the street as if you were looking as a buyer, and what do you see? That's the starting point. The next thing I like to tell people is, if you got out of your car and walked up to your home, when you bought this house, you probably had plans like planting flowers or trimming back the shrubs. What were you going to do that you didn't do, right? But the things that are important for a buyer is, first of all, the outside needs to look cute and fresh, right? So if you do need to cut back shrubbery, now's the time to do it. Get started on that. Toys or old leaves that have piled up under bushes or brown patches in the yard, those things, believe it or not, will make a big difference in the first impression. Was the house cared for? Was the yard cared for, right? First impressions will tell the story of the inside. If you've taken great care of your yard, most likely you've taken great care of the inside of your house. So it tells the story of your home at the very beginning. Your front door, we want to make sure that there's no smudge marks or food or anything on the door or the handle. If you have glass, you want to make sure you're Windexing that. So that's nice and clean. Cleaning out the track, the dirt, the kick plate. You want to make sure that's clean. You want to sweep off your porch, put a fresh rug out, a fresh plant out. So those are all you're going to be greeted at your front door by any guest. And when a buyer shows up, I mean, they're more than a guest, they're a potential owner. That is the first place that you can say, I've loved and cared for my home. So we start there, definitely from the curb, looking at the house as a whole picture, but then being very specific. If they're going to walk up to it and be within a foot or two of it, it needs to be touched. So sweep those cobwebs out, change that light bulb that might, I'm a big my light bulb fetish here. If you have a warm light, a cool light in your coach lights or at your front porch, make sure all your lights are saying the same thing, right? Do not use daylight. I'm just going to tell everybody now. Do not use daylight bulbs anywhere in your house, especially when you're staging and getting ready to sell. But bright lights, make sure the lights are the same. No cobwebs, no fingerprints. Sweep off everything. So there you go, Rick. That's kind of the starting point for staging on the outside of your house.
Well, if you're a single family homeowner, what about concrete and stains and things like that? Do you encourage them to get those removed or at least pressure washed? Do you recommend something like that?
Yes. So concrete, that's kind of a story in and of itself. So we live in Colorado. A lot of times there's spalling. They call it spalling, is when you've have chips in your concrete because you've had salt and ice and all that kind of stuff. Not much you can do with that. Most of the time buyers say that's acceptable. But if there's grease and there's oil, if there's weeds growing in the cracks, you certainly want to clean all that up. I recommend power washing your garage door very lightly. You don't want to like power wash the paint off or anything, but spray that off and then power wash the concrete. But you want to also do inside the garage as well. Okay. So it's winter time now. It will soon be spring. So either way, you want to get the gravel, the rocks, the mud out and spray that off if you can, right? In the middle of winter and it's freezing, you can't, but do the best you can. But definitely in the summertime, power wash everything and make it nice and sharp and clean.
And what about maintaining trees and pulling, seeing more of the house? I tend to think that when you live in a house, you want to have as much foliage coverage of your house, but maybe when you're selling, perhaps have less so you can see more of the house? Or is it just kind of a case-by-case thing?
Well, I think grooming the outside of your house, that's what we call staging, right? Okay. So we're going to groom the outside of the house. We're going to give the bush a haircut. We're going to make sure the lawn is kept. We're going to trim the edges. If there are branches that come up over the roof, you want to trim those back. So as we enter into the spring months, we got flowers and different things like that coming up. Those are wonderful. People love the idea that, oh gosh, there's a garden and there's plants. And so I always definitely say we're gonna kind of groom that. It's like getting a haircut, all the vegetation that's in the front, but also putting a pot of fresh flowers in the springtime, not in the middle of winter, but in the springtime on your front porch just says spring and beautiful. It's just a great feeling. Subconsciously, it makes you feel good and happy and fresh.
And we still probably have maybe 4 to 6 weeks of snow left here in Colorado, and maybe more than that in other parts of the country. What do you say about having snow removed for showings and things like that?
Absolutely. There's nothing worse than showing a property with a buyer and you're traipsing through snow to the front door. Not only can you barely get to the front door, what are you going to do with your shoes when you get there? So on that note, absolutely, there should be a walking path to the front door in a snow. And if you can't create that for whatever reason, I would cancel the showing and get it on a different day. It can be very dangerous with a lot of ice and things like that. So you want to make sure that that path is clear. A lot of times we'll hire teenagers to come over and shovel snow and things like that, just to keep that when the houses are empty. A clear path for sure. You want the porch and the sidewalks cleared. Driveway, as long as there's a walking path, the whole thing doesn't have to be done if you can't. But I would definitely say say clearing the snow is super important. And let's not forget about the rugs. There are a lot of homes, especially vacant homes. You do not have a rug at the front porch, and there's no rug when you walk inside the home. Where are we going to put our wet shoes? I will say when your feet are a little bit wet and you take one step into the house from the snow into the house, you can slip and fall so quickly when you have a little bit of snowpack on the bottom of your shoes. So anyway, those are all just things to think through. What's the consumer, what's that experience coming into my home? Should it be snowy or rainy outside? So yes, all those things, those are good questions, Rick. I need to be well thought through. So.
And if you have a deck, say your condo deck or townhome deck or front deck on your home, do you stage those with like tables and chairs and flowers and such, or is that just like superfluous?
Well, the decks and outdoor living space, it's a great point to bring up because people move to Colorado and love the outdoors. And we literally can be outdoors 300 days out of the year, right, or more. And because the wintertime will boast 50 and 60 degree temperatures, you definitely want to showcase those outdoor living spaces. That's one thing that we love about this part of Colorado. So I would definitely not forget about those. Have them clean, swept and free of just stuff. If you've got stuff, old flower pots and things like that, put those in the garage and let that be as available as possible. When you're shoveling your front porch and driveway, if you can, shovel off your decks as well. Even in the middle of the winter, it's kind of fun to go out and experience what that deck would feel like.
And a lot of us, especially in single family homes, never use our front door, and it kind of shows. The hardware might be a little old, and the lock may not even work, or you may not even know where that key is because you haven't used it in years. So I assume after they drive up and look at their home for the first time in a long time, they should probably see what they can get in their front door, right?
That's right. As a matter of fact, one of the best investments you can make for a first impression is a whole new hardware set for your front door. And I recommend that often. Like, let's just go get an updated. Yeah, it works, it functions, but why don't we just get a brand new one and match the handle with the kick plate? So if it's brass and you're going to replace it with stainless, make sure the kick plate follows suit. And a fresh coat of paint on the front door never hurts. So if it looks great, don't worry about it. But if it's getting old and dingy, do a fresh coat of paint, get a new handle, new kick plate, and you're golden.
It seems like that may be a early indicator of deferred maintenance not being handled if you don't do that, correct?
Right. There's a couple of things in real estate, and this is the behind the scenes, like nobody really knows this, but I know, right? One of the worst situations that happens often is not being able to get into somebody's front door. The key doesn't work, the door sticks. I mean, you're sitting there, and sometimes I have to ask my clients who help me turn the key. It is so hard to unlock. You do not want the first experience at the house to be frustrating. And that is why, having, first impressions look good, having the entry be easy, having rugs to take your shoes off, those go a long way in telling the story of your home for a consumer.
Well, those are all great tips, and you probably should bookmark that part if you're looking to sell your home, because you really need to pay attention to this, or hire Camellia and she'll pay attention to it as well.
There you go.
Camellia has an amazing home that's on the market that is $865,000 as of this taping, and it's a 5-bedroom, 4-bath, 4,413 square foot home. It's at 1520 Wynwood Court in Colorado Springs. That's in the north part of Colorado Springs. So, Camellia, tell me about this home.
Well, thank you, Rick. This is a beautiful home that sits in the trees in the Fox Run community off of Baptist Road. So like Rick said, it's on the north end of town. Super easy to get right on I-25 off of Baptist Road. One of the things I love about this home is it sits on a cul-de-sac, a private cul-de-sac in that Fox Ridge community. And the layout is very spacious. Sometimes you can be in a 2-story home, and although the square footage is large, it feels very tight and cramped on each level. This one is completely the opposite. It's very spacious on every single level. So the main level has, it's kind of like your entertaining level, your kitchens, your dining rooms, your living rooms, your family room. One of the bedrooms can be used as an office. It's right there on the main level. And you walk out to a beautiful, it's a private deck with a hot tub. So it's great, just a great main level living with a wonderful fireplace on that level as well. And then you go upstairs, you have 3 bedrooms, you have a loft library, kind of office library area. The primary suite has it's very spacious, and it has a fireplace, and it has a huge soaking tub. Yeah, I mean, everything is big about that. But the other 2 bedrooms are large as well. And so, yeah, high ceilings, spacious rooms. The lower level, this is one of my favorite features of the whole house, is the lower level is a walkout. So you could actually access the lower level from the front of the house. You just walk down a pathway to the side and pop in to the lower level. So if you have guests with you or kids that are coming and going at different times, you want them to have their own entrance, it is very, very convenient for that. But the ceilings are high. You've got another fireplace down there, entertainment area. We've got a nice wet bar area, another bedroom and bathroom. So very spacious down there as well. It is a great home. It's one of my favorite homes I've listed in a very long time.
Great garage too. Can't forget about the garage.
Oh my gosh, the garage. Every guy's dream. So it has, the floor has the coating on it. It's extra high ceilings as well. Oversized 3-car garage. Absolutely. It is a fabulous garage.
Well, this is an awesome property. If you'd like to see it, be sure to reach out to Camellia. I'm sure she'd like to take you on a private tour. Well, thanks again, Camellia, for being with me today to talk about Colorado Springs and bring your expertise to the program. As always, you've been on a lot of the Pro Show episodes and hopefully a lot more in the future. And it's great having you on. And if you're interested in talking to Camellia, you can do so by calling her on the number on the screen. She's very accessible and answers her phone and gets back to you really quick, even if it goes to voicemail, because she's also very busy. But it's been awesome having you on, and thanks again, and look forward to seeing everybody next week on the Pro Show. And if you have not seen our previous shows, you can go to the Pros Show, plural.com, and either listen to the previous shows or you can watch them on YouTube. They're all available there. They're also on our Facebook page. But this has been awesome, and look forward to seeing everybody next week. And thanks again, Camellia.